Welcome to Bharat Rising. My first question to you is, what would you call the current world order? How would you describe it? Would you say it's still unipolar, with America in the lead? Would you say it's truly multipolar? How would you see this?
I believe that the world today is multipolar. Most of you in the audience came of age during the unipolar moment, which ran from roughly 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, up until about 2017. And the United States was, of course, the most powerful state on the planet by far during the unipolar moment.
Where do you see India standing in this? And do you see India then as a bridging power, trying to bridge different ideological camps, or is India just tilting things in the direction that suited?
Well, I would say, first of all, India is an aspiring great power. The two building blocks of power in the international system are population size and wealth. You need a great deal of wealth, and you need a lot of people to qualify as a great power. The reason that China was not considered a great power until recently was because it didn't have the wealth. It certainly had the population size. What China now has is population size plus wealth. What India has for sure is population size, and it's growing wealthier and wealthier by the year. But I think, according to most accounts, it has not yet reached the point where it qualifies as a great power. Nevertheless, there is no question that India is a major power, and it is, in a very important way, caught in between those three great powers.
In the event of a conflict between India and China, do you think Russia will be forced to take a side?
I think if there were a conflict between India and China, the Russians would do everything they could to sit on the fence and to not get committed. The Russians have no interest in having bad relations with either China or India.
Do you think Ukraine will end up joining the NATO?
No, I think politically that the Russians will go to great lengths to make sure Ukraine doesn't join NATO. And I think that the West will not bring a dysfunctional Ukraine into the alliance. So I think that it will not, Ukraine will not become part of NATO.
Do you then think the West should stop the military aid to Ukraine? Because the American aid is tied in the Congress, and the Europeans are still struggling to find the money to fund this war.
Yes, this is a great question. I believe that it is best for Ukraine, and I want to underline that. I believe it is best for Ukraine to now end the war, to reach a settlement with the Russians. So I think it's imperative that Ukraine become a neutral state. And then the other thing is, I think it's very important that the United States cut off all assistance to Ukraine, and that the Europeans collectively provide aid, economic aid, not military aid, to Ukraine moving forward until it gets on its feet.
Do you think that Xi Jinping is going to attack Taiwan in this decade?
No, I don't think that Xi Jinping is going to attack Taiwan anytime soon. And there are a variety of reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that for him or for China to attack Taiwan, it has to cross a large body of water. And amphibious operations are among the most difficult military operations you can ask an army to perform. It is very difficult to cross a body of water as large as the Taiwan Strait. So the task that the Chinese have set for themselves, if they decide to attack Taiwan, would be a formidable one. The second point is, China has not fought a war since 1979. Just think about that. The United States of America is fighting wars all the time.
There's always the possibility of conflict breaking out. If that happens, my question is, What role do you see India playing there? Because India controls the entry to the Malacca Strait. India has an agreement with the US to allow the aircraft to refuel at Indian bases. Do you think India will have a role, and will it support America militarily in a Taiwan conflict?
I think that India in that event would provide indirect support for the United States. I don't think that India would get involved in the fighting. I think if conflict broke out at a low level, the Americans would pretty much handle it by themselves, maybe with the Philippines by their side in the fight.
You've said in the past that the US foolishly fed the economic rise of China. The US is now working very closely with India. Do you foresee a potential rivalry with India in the future?
During that second half of the Cold War, we had a vested interest in helping China to get rich, because as China got rich, it helped us contain the Soviet Union. When the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union went away, my argument is we no longer have a vested interest in helping China to get rich. Now, let's go to the India question. At this point in time, the United States has a deep-seated interest in seeing India grow wealthier and militarily more powerful, because India can help the United States contain China. India is a member of the Quad. If China develops a powerful naval projection capability into the Gulf area, India will play a key role in helping the United States deal with that scenario. So we have a vested interest in helping India grow. If, however, China at some point in the future goes the way of the Soviet Union, China breaks up, it's much weaker tomorrow than it is today, and India continues to grow more and more powerful, you can rest assured the United States will put its gun sights on India.
You see the Gaza war ending. We know that you've criticized Israel's actions very strongly, which is also a contrast with how you see Palestine versus Ukraine. But how do you see the end to this conflict?
I think the Gaza war, from Israel's point of view, is a disaster. There is virtually no chance that Israel is going to defeat Hamas. So they are going to have significant resistance from Hamas. They're stuck in Gaza, and world opinion, and this includes countries like India, which favor the two-state solution, and the United States, which favors the two-state solution, are going to put enormous pressure on Israel over time to move to a two-state solution, which Israel doesn't want to do. All of this is to say Israel is in real trouble.